Hi, this is Corey McCarthy, and welcome to a new episode of Fit, Formidable, and Fantastic. That's right, go F yourself, and happy Meatless Monday. In this episode, I want to address raw food dieting, full raw dieting, and whether it is any more beneficial than eating a diet with cooked foods. So let's get right to it. There isn't any peer-reviewed research that supports raw being better. Let's just put that out there. In fact, anecdotal evidence suggests that people consuming a 100% raw diet for prolonged periods of time don't appear any healthier than people that are on a mixed diet. So don't be persuaded into believing that the short-term positive health effects that you notice from going raw will translate to greater, longer-term health effects. Especially if you are going raw from a standard American diet, therefore you are eliminating a majority of processed foods and junk and basically trash from your diet by going raw, which naturally is going to make you feel better, changing from that kind of a diet pretty much to any healthier diet. So to get right down to it, there are a number of foods that are far more nutritious and actually healthier for you when cooked. The first one being mushrooms. I'm just going to give some examples here. Mushrooms. Mushrooms actually contain trace carcinogenic compounds when they're raw. And that includes hydrazine and a naturally occurring form of formaldehyde. And both chemicals actually are sensitive to heat, thus they are cooked out. A 2009 study that was published in the International Journal of Cancer actually shows a 60 to 70% reduction in breast cancer risk through the consumption of cooked mushrooms. I emphasize that, cooked mushrooms. And that study is going to appear up at the top corner of the screen there for you. Another food that is more beneficial when cooked is sweet corn. Now, the reason for that is sweet corn cooked at 115 degrees Celsius or 239 degrees Fahrenheit actually increases the phytochemical content known as ferulic acid. And that's actually by 240 to 900% depending on cooking time. And this phytochemical is actually a potent anti-carcinogen. So it's actually really good for potentially fighting cancer and preventing it. Without cooking, ferulic acid is actually bound to the cell walls and the fibers of the corn, and therefore it's not bioavailable. So it's actually beneficial for you to cook corn. And furthermore, the antioxidant activity of corn, depending on cooking time, is actually increased between 22 and 53%. And there will be a study appearing in the top corner of the screen there that discusses all that, some research for you. Another, and one of my personal favorites, one that I cite all the time, is tomatoes. The bioavailable lycopene content in tomatoes is increased between 6 and 35% depending on how long you cook it. And the total antioxidant amount is increased between 28 and 62% depending on the length of cooking time. And that's at 88 degrees Celsius or approximately 190 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, lycopene, for those who don't know, is a potent free radical destroyer. It's actually 10 times more powerful than vitamin E. And there's also some evidence to show, now there's more research that's needed on this, but some evidence to show that it may actually decrease prostate cancer risk. And there's some studies at the top of the screen there for you to look at. The next one I'm going to go into are actually a favorite amongst vegans, a very favorite food amongst vegans who are not on a carb-restricted diet, and those are beans. Specifically in this case, I'm going to be discussing red kidney beans. Now, red kidney beans contain a toxin known in layman's terms as the kidney bean lectin. And it can cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, all within 2 to 3 hours of post-consumption of eating uncooked kidney beans. But cooking eliminates this toxin. And there's going to be a link for you to check out up there. Next, and I'm going to lump these together here, another example are soy foods and cruciferous vegetables. Now, cruciferous vegetables, in case you aren't aware, they include, but it's not limited to, things like broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, kale, collards, and spinach. The reason I'm lumping soy in there with the cruciferous vegetables is they both contain a substance known as goitrogens, which can actually cause goiter, hence its name. And basically what that is the enlargement of the thyroid gland. And that can lead to a slowing of the thyroid and eventually hypothyroidism. And it's especially important for people who have a genetic predisposition to thyroid problems. Now, if you boil cruciferous vegetables and cook soy products for at least a half hour, you can eliminate the goitrogen content by 87%. Now, it won't completely eliminate them, which is why I always recommend for people who eat a lot of tofu to make sure they're not predisposed to thyroid conditions, because it'll completely eliminate them. But you do want to ensure that as long as you are a healthy person, that you at least include ample dietary iodine content if you are frequently consuming soy and cruciferous vegetables. Just to maintain proper thyroid health, to ensure that you may not cause yourself a problem. But people who are predisposed to a thyroid problem might want to either consider cutting it out or discussing their doctor with how much they should consume of those two foods. So there you go. Those are some examples right there of some foods, and that's just a short list, that are actually better cooked. Not to say that all foods are beneficial cooked. Actually, nuts and seeds can have a lot of benefits eaten raw, as long as you sprout them, and that's about regarding anti-nutrients. That's a totally different subject here. I've done a video on that before. There's a link up there, a number of links actually, and some studies to everything I discussed there regarding the veggies and the soy and the goitrogens. Basically, in conclusion, there's just no evidence that raw dieting is any better than a mixed diet. So I would recommend that you eat a mixed diet. There are some foods that are better raw, and there are some foods that are just going to be better for you and healthier for you if you cook them. So bear all that in mind. And as for processed foods, I would say that to at least eliminate processed foods down to about 10 to 20% of your dietary intake. You don't have to completely eliminate them. There are foods you might enjoy, and at least for psychological health, you can add them in. It's not going to hurt you to have at least 10 to 20% of your diet coming from processed foods. And there's some reading up there about that in particular. The topic here really was getting into whether raw food dieting was any more beneficial, and it's not. I advocate that you have a mixed diet. You get both in. Don't fall for and follow these cult trends. Do your research. Ask questions. Do reading. That's a problem that I've brought up before with a lot of things I've noticed in the vegan community, is that people tend to just jump into these bandwagons without knowing much about them, and they buy into this conjecture and this n=1, and they don't do a lot of research. In fact, there's even a lot of people who seem to shun science in the vegan community. They look at it as potentially even serving the omnivorous world, like it's got some kind of an agenda. But I'm not saying that the science studies aren't sometimes biased or containing at least some degree of bias in these situations, but they try to be as unbiased as possible, and bring to you the facts about health in this case. So don't just jump into personal example, because there's too many factors you can't control, as I said before. So if you have any questions, please drop them below. I'd be happy to answer anything. Or if you have something you want to add for the viewers to read. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on Friday for our regularly scheduled episodes. Stay fit, stay formidable, and stay fantastic. I will see you around. Have a good week.